Chambers of the Occult may contain content that might not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome
I'm
back.
Alexis.
I'm
What?
Jay.
I'm Kai. And we're Chambers of the
Chambers
Occult.
of the Occult.
Back with episode 14. That's
14.
crazy.
Yeah.
We've been
I can
recording
only
for a
count to
long
4.
time now, actually.
I mean, it's kind of how we started our year.
No, yeah, we
Yeah,
literally
what do we-
started the this. Guys, it's almost August.
Yeah. We're
We're
like
almost-
what are
what,
we-
1 week away.
Yeah. This year has gone by so fast.
It really
It
has.
is.
It's crazy.
Time to make the best of the rest of the year.
Right? Just a few more months. I'm
Yeah,
almost
literally.
21.
As soon as August is here, I mean, Halloween's already here. And as soon as Halloween's over, people skip right over Thanksgiving and Christmas is here. So
Exactly. And then
we're
Christmas
at the end
happens
of the
for, like,
year.
a day, and then it's already the new year after that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It always feels like the first half of the year goes really slow. And then the rest just like disappears.
Mhm.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. The end of the year is usually just so busy. So time flies.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, it's
forgot
holiday
how
after
busy
holiday.
last year was.
Event after event.
Last year was
Literally last
goodness
year from like
gracious.
September to December was literally a blur. Like it went by
Yeah.
so fast last year.
I don't
I
know
was
how we
thinking about-
functioned.
We got into the new year and I was like thinking about it and I was like, dude, wait. I was like September and then October happened, all that. And then November and then December was like flashlight. And then I was like, oh my God, like it all went by so fast.
Yeah. So that's time is a construct.
Literally.
Yeah, what do we? I don't like time.
It's a thing.
Here's the thing.
I was gonna say like there's pros and cons, but like there's nothing we can do about it.
You guys don't have. Do you have your like settings on your phone, Jay, on military time?
No. You do.
No. Yes, I do. I know I'm
Listen.
not the only one.
Listen, if I am in the US, it's not
Uh-huh.
going to be military time. If I
Uh-huh.
go abroad, it will be military time. Just for that trip,
Uh-huh.
but not here.
But not here.
What is your time right now in military?
What do you mean? Like it's 1651?
Cool.
Do we have
451.
any
Yeah.
listeners? My God. Whoa.
Wait, what?
Wow. Yeah,
Like, do we have any
listeners,
listeners
you?
who are like military? I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say.
If you do military time,
Thank
Good
you for
for
your
you.
service. I saluted.
Thank you.
You couldn't see
Yeah.
it, but I saluted. Yeah.
but yeah. Care to start us off, Kai?
Yeah. All right. So, I'm going to start saying just a bunch of random ad libs until
Okay.
I can form my thoughts. All right. Awesome. Ready? Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like me on tour.
Awesome.
So,
Ready. Cool.
yeah. Fair.
Today-
Should we time you?
What? Yeah.
Should we time you?
Yeah.
We have at least an hour.
Honestly, okay, sometimes I'll be at home and I'll be doing something and it'll be like half an hour. I'm like, whoa, half an hour went by. That's like half of a tour.
Yeah.
Or I'll be like, an hour went by, I didn't feel like that. But that was like a whole tour. And
Yeah.
I realized how much longer tours feel because we're putting so much energy into them.
It
No,
depends with your people as
seriously.
well, though.
It definitely does depend on
Yeah.
people, yeah.
Once again, time is a construct.
It really is. Like, the only
Yeah.
reason why people back in like the caveman era needed to know time, the only thing they needed was to know when the sun was up and when the sun was down.
Yeah,
Like,
fair.
that's all they needed to know.
Yeah, what do we?
Anyway, okay.
Yes.
Chase, the case. Why did I say chase? Case.
Chased.
Cool. So, yeah, gonna be starting us off with a true crime case here today. And now this one takes place in 1996, so not all too long ago.
Okay.
And there's actually some modern inclusions as well, but I'll get into that in just a bit.
Mhm.
So on May 19th of 1996, a young couple, Julianne Marie Williams and Laura Salisbury Winans, would go on a camping trip in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. On June 1st of 1996, their bodies would be discovered.
Oh, we know what's happening.
Yeah. So Julianne, she commonly would go by Julie. Her name, she was 24, and Laura, who would go by Lollie, actually, was 26. So they're a pretty young couple. They loved the outdoors. That's actually how they met. That's exactly how they met. It was through a nonprofit organization in Minnesota, where Julianne was from. The nonprofit, it focused on outdoor education and travel for exclusively women. It was called Woods Women, which I think is a cool name. It's not in function or anything anymore. It dispersed a long while ago. But they met each other. They really grew fond of each other. They learned everything through, these camping trips, through being in the backcountry, in the wilderness, and camping out together, through their nonprofit, through trips that they took together. It was a great relationship. And so for this trip specifically, they went on it together so that Julianne could enjoy some free time before she started a new job in Vermont, where they would be going to move. They actually even brought their golden retriever along with them. His name was Taj.
Taj.
Aww.
Okay.
G.
That's cute.
I assume it's a boy. I don't actually have any written knowledge, but Taj sounds like a boy's name to me.
It does.
So Shenandoah National Park is beautiful. All of our national parks are. But sadly, the couple never got to enjoy their trip. Yeah. So the last time that they were seen alive in the park was on May 24th. So about 5 days after they got there in the first place, they met up with a ranger, a wilderness ranger who was there working in the park. They met up with that ranger to actually extend their backcountry camping permit for a few more days, because that's what they were going to do. That ranger dropped them back off to their campsite, and so that was May 21st or 24th. Sorry, the last time that they were seen. They were then reported missing on May 31st. So about a week or so that had gone by. They renewed their permit for another 5 days, and so it had already been about a couple days past, 1 or 2 days past. That's why they were reported missing.
Yeah, got it.
So of course, an investigation began. Park-wide search and rescue efforts set in motion. And while in cases like this, the best you can hope for is simply that they got lost, but this wasn't that.
Yeah.
So what was found, it sparked outrage, fear, national conversations about wilderness safety, and the worst that hate crimes could entail, really like the worst that humanity can offer. And that's because their bodies were found. So they were found on June 1st. So a few days after a day after the search and rescue began. It took them about a day. So their bodies were found at sort of a remote campsite. It was hidden pretty well in the wilderness, but it wasn't too far off from any other public areas. It was about a quarter of a mile from the Skyland Lodge and the Skyland Drive area. So Skyland Lodge is sort of like honestly a hotel that's sort of set right in the middle of the wilderness there, nestled in the forest. Also not far off from the Appalachian Trail, which is the main trail running through. Runs about 2,200 miles, passes through 14 different states. So lots of people do actually travel through there. But it still took a while for them to be found, because while they were close to those main areas, close to the trail, due to park rules and regulation, they had to camp off the trail where they wouldn't be visible to the public that were using the trail. So they were nestled pretty well inside of the brush and the wilderness that was far off. So it did take them a whole day to find these people, even though they knew a rough area of where they were camping out in. And so they eventually were found. Now, Laura was found inside of their tent, just in the main part of the campsite. Julianne was found about 45 to 75 feet away, not sure which, but somewhere in that range. 45 to 70 feet away alongside sort of the river embankment, and she was still inside of her sleeping bag. Yeah. Both of them were tied up, gagged, and their throats were slit.
Oof.
And so, yeah, it was a pretty gruesome sight. I haven't seen pictures or anything of what was found. I don't think there are any, and I'm glad to not see them. But
I'm assuming that some park ranger or authority found them. It wasn't just a random stranger walking.
No, so it was the park ranger, the search and rescue team that eventually found them there in that campsite. Yeah, there was a whole operation that was set forth to find these two girls. So yeah, their bodies were found. Their dog Taj was nowhere to be seen. But he actually was found later in the week. He was still alive. He was roaming around another campsite that was in the area. So yeah. I love how you don't say anything until
now.
Say that the dog survived.
I'm sorry.
Any thoughts so far?
I don't
me?
like this.
Yeah. I don't like this either. I
feel
don't.
like I'm monologuing right now.
No, I mean I'm paying attention and I just don't know how to react to this. And
100%.
I think it just has to lead with the fact that you right off the bat you told us it's their bodies were found here.
That's how I wanted to pull you guys in.
You did. And that's why I said quiet.
You did.
So
the same.
It's so funny. I always partially write out a little bit of how I want to start my cases, but I don't fully script out everything. But I'll use different ways to pull you guys in sometimes. And Most of the time, I like draw it out a bit.
No, I
But
like
this
that.
time I was
I
like,
like that.
yeah. And this time I was like, nope. I was like, I'm just gonna like go right into it. So
Yeah, that's why
Um,
I didn't say anything because it was like a 180 from what you usually do, and I'm like
yeah.
holding on to like my desk, and I'm like, I need to know
Started off
more.
strong. Yeah.
Cool. Glad you guys think so. All right. Well, get ready to hold on to your chair more. I'm about to describe
I'm holding
how
on.
they were found.
Oh,
So, Laura's hands were bound with duct tape. Her legs were bound together with a pair of thermal underwear. Not sure who exactly it belonged to, if it was her or if it was the person who did it.
Mhm.
So she was partially undressed, but thankfully there was no sign of any sexual assault.
Okay,
that's
thanks.
always good
So,
though. But it's
yeah.
still.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like
Yeah.
that's
No, you're
always
fine.
good, but it's
You're
still
fine.
a dead person.
But she's still
so-
dead, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Laura was still found in their tent in the main part of the campsite. Julianne, she was found a decent ways away. So yeah, just kind of stuck inside of her sleeping bag. Julianne's hands were also bound with duct tape. However, her legs were not, so they were just free. Julianne was fully naked, but once again, there were no signs of any sexual assault. There is like, I guess, some sort of suggestion that Julianne could have been tortured a bit and then moved away, sort of dumped away. But I really couldn't find much more about that. That wasn't really a focus, I think, during the investigation. The cause of death was, of course, determined to be, their throats being slit, them bleeding out. But time of death was hard to establish. They were, outside in the park in the harsher weather, with only partial shade covering them. So the coroner's rough estimate was their death was May 26th to May 28th, somewhere between those 2 days.
Wow.
However, it could have been as soon as the night of the 24th after they were last seen and made contact with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were suspicions that like they could have been seen and followed from the parking area from that lodge that was not too far off, but they were, in bed for the night when they were attacked is what was determined. So if somebody was stalking them, they would have had to wait hours to do so. That doesn't necessarily rule anything out, but yeah, so the reason why it could have even been as soon as the night of May 24th when they were killed is because they had like a camera with them that would date stamp the pictures, like on digital camera as it puts on the date when it was taken. And so the last picture that they took was during the day on May 24th.
Yeah.
So May 24th was the last use of their camera, and they weren't seen after May 24th. So that's what made it so hard to really determine time of death. It's also what gives more complexity to the investigation itself, trying to figure out who did it exactly.
Yeah.
Also, just because the fact that, big window, and also the fact that their campsite was just so well hidden.
Yeah, it's away from prying eyes.
Exactly.
And unless you were actively looking for something, you wouldn't have seen it just passing by.
Exactly. So yeah, there was so much that made it such a difficult investigation. This huge national park, this wilderness. You don't know what the difference between, regular rocks and a rock used as a murder weapon is if you're looking through the park. And also the fact that while the park does track and take pictures of all cars exiting or entering and exiting, there's just so many that come through in one day. It's hard to actually figure out.
And they can only narrow it down to so many cars for like that window of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then again, this sounds like a huge park, so a lot of cars are going to come through.
Yeah.
Let me see. how big the park actually is. So Shenandoah National Park is about 200,000 acres.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over 200,000 acres. That is huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge national park. But so the girls were bound. Investigation sort of did reveal that they were bound and restrained before that they were killed.
No.
There was no sign of a struggle or anything, so it probably happened while they were asleep in the middle of the night. Somebody came up, did that to them,
Left them unconscious. Yeah.
yeah. One interesting thing about the duct tape that was used, though, is that there is some evidence that the original duct tape that was used to bind up Julianne's wrists was actually removed and then used to gag Lollie or Laura with. And so that sort of gave the impression that it could have been 2 or more people that were involved with what happened.
Was there?
Oh, yeah.
Fuck, I don't even know if you would know. I was like, was there any valuables stolen? Anything like that?
Not really, no. I mean, they didn't take much, right? They were on just a backpacking trip. It was food, water.
Yeah.
There was nothing really of value to take, I guess. I don't know. In the investigation, though, like I mentioned, of course, the National Park Service, they went through their cameras of all the tags of their cars entering, but they couldn't really find much. The closest thing that they found to evidence was that there was male DNA found on the underwear that was used to tie Laura's legs. There was also a couple hairs found around. One of the hairs was from a glove that was near the crime scene, and another one of the hairs was stuck to like the adhesive of the duct tape.
Yeah.
They couldn't really do much with these hairs though, because they were a little bit old at that point. Not great testing. There were no like roots on the hairs, which is where most of that DNA comes from.
Oh yeah.
But they did determine that those hairs did come from one person. So there was obviously one person that was involved. That doesn't give them much.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So investigations happened. So nothing really happened for close to a year. There wasn't much that they could do. But it wasn't until the next year, 1997, when they finally had their first main suspect in this case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm like, how did they find a suspect after a year?
Mm-hmm.
In this situation.
Yeah. So his name was Daryl David Rice. And there was some pretty good, I guess, like, evidence, nothing like scientific or physical, but I guess like, being wrong place, wrong time, stuff like that. I'll get into it more, but Daryl was the prime suspect for a while in the murders. It started in about May, July of 1997. So July 1997, he was arrested for an attempted abduction of a girl in Shenandoah National Park. So, yeah, so it was around the Skylodge like drive area. So around the hotel and around where like it was a popular sort of bike trail to go through in the national park. She was on her bike. He ran her off the road in his truck, and then he tried to drag her into his truck.
No.
Yeah. So pretty brutal. he was unsuccessful in doing so, which made him even more angry. So he tried to run her over with her truck.
Oh my!
Yeah. A miracle that she survived that. I'm so glad she did.
Did she actually like get run over?
No. So she was able to escape. She got up, ran.
Okay.
He eventually, he was arrested by the Rangers. He pleaded guilty. He received an 11-year sentence.
Yeah.
So he was arrested in 1997, July, and sort of that's when they started doing more research into him. He became their prime suspect for a bunch of different reasons. So his attack on this bicyclist was in the really exact same area of the park that the girls were murdered in. His sort of predatory behavior, his selection of female victims. But there's also some claims that that he was actually videotaped entering the park in 1996 at one of the entrances at 8:05 p.m. on May 25th. And then again videotaped at about 5 p.m. on May 26th. So May 25th and 26th, he was in the park of 1996, and that's roughly when those girls were said to be murdered.
I was going to say that falls in the window, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And then later it also says that he did return with actually two of his friends on June 1st, Carl and Robert Ruckert. And I mentioned earlier, there was some belief that it could have been two or more people that were involved in the murder.
You did?
Yeah. They questioned him about this information. He denied that he was in the park on the 25th and 26th, but he did say that he was there on June 1st. And honestly, this combined with his arrest for running over the girl on the bike was enough.
After God knows what he wanted to do with her after dragging her.
Yeah. It was enough for the Attorney General. It's like I mentioned, there was not any actual physical evidence, but it was circumstantial evidence. So it was April of 2002. Rice was charged with the murder of Julianne and Laura. The investigators, the main investigators of the case claimed that he killed them because he hated women and homosexuals. Apparently, he made statements to the investigators that he, quote, hated gays and preyed on women, quote, because they are more vulnerable than men. He also stated that Julianne and Laura, quote, deserved to die because they were lesbian whores.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
So all of that was in their eyes, and in that time was more than enough to charge
Someone
him.
has a small dick.
No, literally. Literally.
I mean, where does all this hate originate from?
I have no clue. I mean, small dick, that's the
No, because I'm thinking it'd be different if he was saying this to a friend that he already talked shit with, but he was under custody when he said this, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he was telling this to authorities. So I'm where is this rage coming from? You're already you're not getting out of this. You're not making your situation better.
Yeah. He literally was not. And that's why it's so crazy, but I guess also in line with our justice system, that his case was later dismissed. He was not charged for this.
Did he go back
to
the park?
It could have been really bad for him, because as well as being charged with 4 counts of capital murder, he was also charged with a hate crime, which at that time is a federal sentence. So like federal sentencing enhancement. So hate crimes were, very much looked down upon. If he got convicted, he would have gotten the death penalty. He would have been executed. So the investigators, the prosecutors, they spent a bunch of time building that case. But like I mentioned, they lacked actual physical forensic evidence. It was all circumstantial.
Yeah.
You guys remember that hair that was found at the crime scene?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was tested once again against his DNA. The DNA on the hair did not match Rice's DNA or the victims. Mm-hmm. And that caused the case to just fall apart. The one chance they had of actual forensic evidence was not there. So in 2004, the charges against him were dismissed without prejudice, which meant that he could still be charged at a later date. It's just for now, they did not have the evidence they needed to continue.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So they were back to the drawing board, back to square one. Later on, Rice, though not connected with the murders of Julianne and Laura, but he was later in 2005. He was later connected to the murder of a woman named Alicia Reynolds and other attempted abductions attributed to someone known as the Route 29 stalker, who was like a murderer, killer. Yeah. So, he was later connected to more crime. He, pleaded no contest, essentially guilty to abductions of one of the victims of that stalker. He wasn't formally charged in the case of the lady Alicia, though. So there was a lot that happened with Rice, but unfortunately they didn't charge him with anything for Julianne or for Laura's murders. So they continued looking. There were more suspects that were found. They didn't really have many. Another man, his name was Richard Ivonitz. He was a suspect in the murders. Police were actually about to arrest him for 3 other murders that were separate, but he then committed suicide in 2002. So police weren't able to question him or anything like that. Now, there is some talk that Julianne and Laura's murders are connected to something a lot bigger. Something known as the Colonial Parkway murders. The Colonial Parkway murders are a series of murders of at least 8 people that happened in Virginia. So in Virginia between 1986 to 1989. So before, the time of Julianne and Laura's murders, but they were still in the same general stretch of the state that had happened. So there was consideration there. In 1986, there was a murder of another couple. And so the FBI was investigating that case. And so there was a time when Julianne and Laura's murders thought they could have been connected to that string of serial murders that happened in the area. But I think I might get into that for another true crime segment on one of our next episodes. So
fair.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. 2004. The charges were dropped, and the case has remained unsolved.
To this day, still unsolved.
Up until June 20th, 2024.
No. Hi.
20 years later?
Mm-hmm.
That is now.
That's now. Not even a month. That's a month ago.
Go ahead.
Yeah. That was a month.
We're recording June 23rd or July 23rd. Sorry. July 23rd.
Yeah, July.
this case was officially solved and closed June 20th, 2024.
Oh
so,
my God.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
You buried the lead.
What can I say? I'm a good investigator. So all the time passed by, there was, nothing to progress this case. Nothing to give them more evidence or anything like that. It was unsolved for 20 years. But it wasn't until 2021, so just a few years ago, when a new FBI team was assigned to review Julianne and Laura's murders. It was one of their investigative teams. Not necessarily reopening that cold case, but just, supplementing more research into it. So the pieces of evidence that were recovered from the scene, the investigative team, they sent several pieces of that to a private lab for testing, and with our modern technologies, our modern databases of all of the DNA that's been collected over these last 20 years, there was a match to the DNA that they found. So the DNA was matched to a man named Walter Leo Jackson Sr.
And who is this Walter?
He's from Cleveland, Ohio. He was a convicted rapist from Ohio. They brought him in. They got more DNA. They took more DNA from evidence on Jackson's crimes, and once again it was a match to what they had found. So they looked into Jackson more. He had a long criminal history, several kidnappings, rapes, assaults, but here's the kicker: he also was an avid hiker and was known to very frequently visit Shenandoah National Park. So yeah,
the dots are being connected.
Yep. So yeah, June 20th, 2024 is when the FBI officially announced that they had identified Jackson as Julianne and Laura's killer. They wanted more help for other unsolved crimes. They actually identified that at the time of their murder, he was driving a 1984 chestnut brown AMC Eagle 30. The exact car he was driving. He later was driving a van. They said he was known to use, sorts of different evasive things, temporary tags, different license plates, changing vehicles. So he managed to stay hidden for a very long time.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So finally they found who did it, right? Jackson was going to be charged for these murders. But they couldn't charge him for them.
Why?
Why?
Because he died in prison in March of 2018.
So he died years before they knew it was him.
6 years before they figured it out. But hey, he was already in prison, so I guess they found the closure they needed, even if they couldn't formally charge him with anything.
Yeah, but
what the hell?
Yeah.
It makes me I'm glad that they finally figure it out.
Yeah.
That their family could get closure and things, but it makes me sick to my stomach that this man in prison was thinking to himself that he got away without being caught for those murders.
No, seriously. It's kind of crazy that he was in prison for completely separate cases, right? And it's only he knew that he was essentially a serial murderer.
Yeah.
or actually, yes, technically not, but he was a murderer, like, and nobody knew that. I don't know.
This.
That's
What?
crazy.
I'm
What
glad
the
that
hell?
there's, an answer, but I'm not sure how I feel about this man already. I mean, I'm glad that this man was behind bars. I'm not so glad that he was
Yeah.
already dead, but
And especially how recent it is also. Like
yeah.
literally
So
a month
recent.
ago is crazy.
Literally.
I don't know. Yeah.
The more you know. Well, yeah, and it's always what like I'm curious about. Like, there's so many unsolved crimes, just dead cold cases out there. Give it another like 10, 15 years. You don't know what kind of technology we'll have and like what can become evidence that people didn't consider evidence back then.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's so interesting to think about how investigations were conducted back then. It's like, what could you go off? How like it makes sense that so many things were left unsolved because they didn't have the access to like DNA databases and DNA testing as a whole like that we do now.
Yeah.
And, like the evidence right in front of them, but they couldn't do anything about it because they didn't have the ability to actually inspect that evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
And I think, it comes to show that that people know how fast technology is progressing. So they always like keep things for the future. It's like this could come in handy in the future. Like it could be evidence or it could be used.
Like, how long did it take us to go to the moon after we discovered flight? Like, no, it's crazy.
Not
it
too
was
long.
Not very long, right? Like, it was.
No, yeah.
I don't know. Crazy how fast we can advance with our technologies. So I was actually doing a little more sort of research into it, and there have been people who have like written books about it, of course. And so I found an article where somebody interviewed the author. Did I close the tab?
Oh no.
Let me pull that up. So I just think it was an interesting read in a way because so the lady was interviewing the author of this book, and like one of the questions was like the FBI and the National Park Service, they had to work together on this investigation, but when the author of the book was like interviewing the FBI agents that were helping to lead this case, they seemed like so annoyed and like they looked down upon the National Park Service because they weren't like as equipped for like investigations like the FBI was.
Get over it. It's your job to bring the equipment.
Okay, but the thing is, and the author, she brought up a really good point. It was like, do you really think that the FBI is better equipped than the National Park Service to solve a case in the wilderness of a national park? Where does the FBI use their cases? In buildings, indoors, in closed environments. They're like the first thing you learn at investigator school for the FBI is to secure the scene, close any monitor any entrances or exits to make sure no evidence can get in or get out without identification. And it's like, well, you gotta throw that all away because what's considered the crime scene in the wilderness? Like, there's no doors. You can just close to make sure it's contained. And I was like, you have such a great, like, that is.
And then
so
you have
crazy.
the elements to go against as well.
Exactly. Like, what was Eden? What was not? what is a regular piece of the ground versus something that's been walked along, a little trail's been started type of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
What has been washed away or like blown away? What still remains? Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm glad the investigation got somewhere. I'm glad the FBI stepped back in 2021 and they found who did it, even if he had already passed away. So
I'm always curious when like something new appears like years later. I'm like, was someone still working on this case, or like just casually go in there? Or do they have like some notification set up in case like there's a match and like they're always running things?
Mhm.
I mean, technically, a cold case is just that. It's a cold case. It doesn't mean it's a closed.
Yeah, it's not necessarily closed.
Yeah, like you legally can't close a case until you find a resolution to it. So, like, I guess there's always alerts that are going to happen if there's like DNA matches and things that happen. I don't know. The FBI is like more advanced than I'll ever be. So,
and I think it goes back to like depending the country that the crime took place. Because
definitely.
When I covered the missing painter kid in Spain, his family claimed him dead years after, and that's because they had to wait a certain time before they could if there was no body found.
Yeah.
So I think it really just depends country and like the legal system, but
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious how the FBI works. I think we all are.
I think we all are. I'm going to join the FBI just to figure it out, and then I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
And then we're never going to see you again. We're going to be like, didn't Kai join the FBI? It's like, yeah. It's like, I think he's still working there. It's like,
literally.
I think he's undercover. Little do we know that they took him out.
Bye, guys. Last time I'll ever hear from you, or you'll ever hear from me.
We'll have to get a Ouija to talk to you.
Yeah, to talk to me. Go in the seance room.
Go ahead.
I'll be there. I'll be there. Cool.
I'll be there to observe.
Those are the murders of Julianne, Julie Williams, and Laura, Lollie Winans.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What's next?
Led with a murder, finished with a way to close it. I wasn't sure what I was going for.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I'm going to let you go.
Okay, and I'm going to let you go, Alexis. Run wild.
Karma.
What do you have for us?
I'm really excited about this one.
Sick.
Mainly, okay, so, I was looking for some cases, some paranormal cases. I like finding ones. I had a case in mind that I wanted to do, but I was like, you know what? Let's do something different. Let's spice it up today. And I'm so glad I did, because I found this beautiful, wonderful case. The name of it really drew me in. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
The Humpty Doo Poltergeist.
Holy shit, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Who?
Humpty Doo. Humpty Doo.
Where's this at?
Now let me tell you, this in Australia. Humpty Doo.
Down under.
Humpty Doo, Australia. That's what it's called. It's in like the Northern Territory of Australia. It's by Darwin, for any of my Australians that are listening. And it's so funny because I was researching it, and another thing that drew me in was that it's, the Humpty Doo Poltergeist, and it's considered to be one of the most media covered paranormal cases in Australian history.
No way.
There's really not that much media on it. But I found everything that I could.
All right.
So this starts 1997, August, when a couple, Jill Somerville, sick name, and Dave Clark, sicker name, moved in to a new rented home on 90 McMinn's Drive in Humpty Doo, Australia.
Sorry,
So
this
this-
all sounds almost like you're trying to read a children's book.
I am.
Also, I
I'm reading
disagree
your
about
children's
her.
book.
I think the first name sounds cooler than the second one.
Okay, Jill Somerville.
Yeah, Jill Somerville is way cooler than
Okay, yeah. Somerville's a really sick last name,
it is.
right? All right. So Somerville and Clark, they love their new home. They had a nice time living there so far. They had no comments, questions, concerns until January 1998, when a married couple, Andrew and Kirsty Agius, they decided to move into the home with them. I don't know how that situation works. I'm not sure if it's like they had like a Craigslist thing online and they wanted to move in or something, but they moved into the home with them. Not sure what the relationship is beforehand or how they moved in, what the house is like on the inside. I only have photos from the outside, so I don't have much detail on that. But they moved in along with their daughter. She was 11 months old. Her name was Jasmine. And they noticed that once the couple had started moving in, there were a lot of things that were happening in the home that some might consider to relate to a poltergeist. Things like objects flying throughout the room, and these objects would be like broken glass. They'd be like bottles, lids, knives even. But yet nobody was there to throw them. Nobody threw them. And it would increase over time. The people that were living inside the home, the couples, they had noticed that they were being somewhat targeted by this head poltergeist.
What? Was it a hate crime?
Oh my god.
Like a hate crime.
I hate against the living.
Where do we? Like, why are you live? But it started getting, of course, weird. I mean, it's gonna get weird once you notice that knives are flying throughout your house. But
wait,
they
that's
started,
not normal in yours?
I mean, I grew up with
only
knives
on
flying around
Tuesdays.
my house, so.
All right. Yeah. Anyways,
I'm not joking,
so
Grandma.
one of the
Mama's
couples. One of the couples that was living in the home, they were chilling out, maxing racks and all good, and they said that it started raining gravel and seashells from the ceiling.
Indoors?
Dropped down from the ceiling. Yeah. Not like it was literally raining, but it was like as if it was raining. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just coming from the ceiling.
More.
What? Yeah.
I think I just confused myself more.
I think so.
They were just coming from the ceiling.
Okay.
They were flying down on these guys while they were just chilling in their house.
So it was raining.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was raining men. Hallelujah.
Grab an umbrella.
They noticed that this is probably my favorite part. They noticed that the poltergeist would try to communicate with them. Okay, I want you guys to guess how they would try to communicate. Just give a just like a guess.
Should it be a wild guess?
Yeah, wild.
They would try to spell it out with spaghetti.
Oh, I like that.
They would play musical chairs.
Dude, how did you know? Just kidding. So Jay was the closest. They make
wow, who would have guessed?
They wouldn't use spaghetti. They would use either gravel or they would use Scrabble tiles.
Oh, that's actually smart.
Ah.
Scrabble tiles
Yeah.
makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what made me think, like, yo, this motherfucker's smart, bro. Anyways, so it would form words, fire, skin, help, and no. And they would all be placed throughout the house. Sometimes it would be on the wall. Sometimes it would be on the ceiling, on the floor. It would just be sporadic throughout the house.
Mm-hmm.
But one day the couple noticed that there was a trident symbol and a cross symbol made of gravel on their floor and on the walls. So they decided to call a priest.
Okay.
Father Stephen D'Souza of Darwin's St. Mary's Cathedral. There was actually one event involving him. He noticed there was a steak knife on the top of the microwave. And this is where I'm going to say, quote, as I walked away, one of the residents called Father. And when he turned around to respond, he said there was a knife flying straight for him. And he didn't think he had enough time to react. Now the knife had just been a few feet away from him when it suddenly stopped, almost as if it hit something and then just fell to his feet.
Yo, the ghost saved him. There's two ghosts there.
Is
there?
I don't know. But I'm just gonna go with it. No, I think it's just one. I think it's just Humpty Doo. But yeah, it like flew straight for him.
Yourself.
And then it just stopped. And then it fell to his feet. After this, he contacted another priest, a parish priest. His name was Father Tom English. He had him come over to the house like 4 different times. One of the things that Father Tom had noted about the case was that this poltergeist, quote, doesn't follow the laws of physics, end quote.
What
like, do any of them?
Yeah. Exactly, right? I was about to say, like, it's like, duh. You know what I'm saying?
Unrelated, but like not. One time I had a guest who was like, it was later on in the tour, and so I had already brought like ghosts up a couple times or whatever. But he was like, so you're saying that ghosts don't have to die here to be here? And I was like,
bruh.
No. I was like ghosts don't have to do anything. They're ghosts. He was like, there's no like, and I was like, they don't have rules they need to follow. I was like, what do you mean? Anyway, sorry, continue.
It's so funny. No, you're fine. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know what goes on in guests' brains when they come into the house sometimes. Like, what they think, at least. What their first impression is. Like, what do they think about
the house or you?
I don't know. The house, not me. Well, anyways, so there was one event where there was a pistol cartridge that flew and just landed right at his feet just one more time. It flew out of nowhere. He said, quote, it crashed against walls. They just fly out of a room that nobody was in, for instance. Outside things came crashing down near us, end quote. And he decided, Father Tom, to bless the home. He spread holy water throughout it. And this was when, quote, everything went berserk. Things were flying around. When I was leaving a medicine bottle, it came flying out of nowhere. And it just, end quote. And then he said that he brought a crucifix, a Bible, and vials of holy water for the residents. But the crucifix was thrown outside of the house, and the holy water was shattered and thrown against the walls. The poltergeist then that same night proceeded to make banging noises. It was like scraping the walls inside the house, making all of these disruptant, loud noises throughout the house for hours throughout the night. So they couldn't sleep. Jill actually said, quote, "It completely freaked us out. It was like something was actually inside the walls right next to us. We couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
We were crying. We would have left the house, but we had nowhere else to go." End quote. Bro, that's... I remember... Okay, wait. I remember...
Did you forget?
There was like rats in a certain place throughout. And you could hear like the rats scratching against the walls, and you would hear it for like nights at my house, like years and years back.
What?
Yeah, well, yeah, there was like rats, and they would just scratch against the walls, and you would hear it going on all night, and that's how I imagine this experience was for the family. Oh my
How do you
god,
know there were rats?
they're not rats. I'm talking
Yeah,
about
it
a
wasn't
personal
Humpty
experience.
Dumpty the
No,
ghost.
I'm talking about your experience.
Humpty
How do you
Doo.
know there were rats?
Oh, I'll tell you that story afterwards.
Okay, no.
Anyways. So yeah, that they experienced that. I would be freaked out too. If I couldn't even sleep, I'm hearing all this noise all night. Hell no. I hate that. Anyways. So as time would go on, the more religious figures that would come into the home, the more aggravated the poltergeist would be. There was a time where... Hold on just a second. Oh my god, stranger danger! Somebody was knocking on my window. Anyways.
No way.
So, yeah, it's okay.
Was
So
it a rat?
the poltergeist, it was a rat. So the poltergeist, he took the Scrabble tiles, I mentioned that, and he would make words with them. But there was one really popular word that kept coming up. And that was Troy.
Troy?
The hell?
Troy. Like Troy Bolton. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And at first, they were kind of confused, like Troy. But then, one of the couples realized that it could have been a reference to a Troy Raditz, one of their good friends that passed in a fire that same year, actually. And it was just down. It was a few miles from their home. And it actually happened January 1998 when that second couple decided to move in.
Damn, what?
Yeah. That's when the events started happening, was the time that their good friend had passed. So they started thinking maybe this is him.
Yeah.
But at the same
Okay.
time, it's kind of like, was it really him? Because if it was him, he wouldn't be doing all of this to try to scare us, things like that.
I mean, would he?
Um,
Maybe he's playing a prank on them, like fucking with
Yeah.
them. I mean, that's what I would do if
He
I
doesn't
was a
have full
ghost.
control of the other side yet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do I?
He's still like in the tutorial mode.
Working through his powers.
Yeah.
They just weren't completely sold on it. I think it makes complete sense that it was their friend, just because it was the same exact time. It was nearby, and they claimed to be good friends. It makes sense that they would be doing all of that to, say, hey, I'm here. But
Yeah.
they weren't really completely 100% sure nor sold on it. So they had media come over. Media would come over a lot to cover these events that would go on inside the home, including the last visit from the priest, Father Tom. The landlord had actually seen all of this media coverage, and when he saw, he didn't exactly like the fact that there was a severe amount of damage to the home. So he decided to take the couple to court to have them evicted.
I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
I understand it that maybe you didn't believe them and thought they were trying to make things up. But
That's exactly why.
yeah.
So in court, that's exactly what the couples had pled. This wasn't our fault. This is what's happening. There's a poltergeist in our home. he keeps doing this, this, and that. And the judge believed it. So the couples were not evicted. Now, even though they weren't evicted, they still ended up moving out of the house. Now, unfortunately, from what I've read and found, it doesn't actually say when they moved out, nor what happened really to the house afterwards. And nothing bad news. I'm just saying there's really not that much information about after. All we know is that the events stopped happening after they had moved out. The next people that were moving into the home, they reported nothing.
Damn.
Now, I do want to say that when you Google the Humpty Doo Poltergeist, one of the first things that shows up is a blog on the website, The Ford Team. And that's where you can get a whole lot of information. But it's not really necessarily information. It's basically just them observing the home and kind of doing paranormal investigations rather than getting information about the house. So there are different kind of experiences that are written in there, especially because there were at one point 30 people in the house kind of observing what was going on. And one of those people
that seems excessive.
Yeah, it was crazy. One of these witnesses was named Cropster. And Cropster, they also wrote, like, in the blog, and one thing that they wrote was, quote, "A few of my experiences at the house still puzzle me 20 years later. The first occurred as I was sitting at a table facing two of the female residents as they washed up at the kitchen sink only a few feet away. They were still talking when I heard two sounds. The first, a handful of gravel stones from their driveway hitting the corroded tin roof of the house. And then the kitchen floor where they were scattered. Two, loud, distinct, and separate noises. Neither of the women had thrown anything, and the stones had fallen between me and where the girls were standing. It appeared that the stones had come from both the roof and the plaster ceiling." End quote.
Okay.
Propster had shared another story of his, this one being one of his favorite. Quote, "One small segment I did record in the house is a personal favorite. Kirsty, Andrew, Tony Healy, and I are in the main room talking, and you can hear Christy in the background saying, 'You don't know what it's going to do. It just does what it wants to do.' Bang. A knife ricochets off a wall, and everyone talks excitedly, but nobody in the room threw anything." End quote.
Whoa.
And but like I said, as I've mentioned, all of these different experiences in the home, they were captured on the media. There's so many different ones, but mainly it is the 14, that blog that got all of that information from 1997, 1996, 1998. But neighbors haven't reported any phenomena since. Ever since then, it's been completely silent. I do have a photo of the house, but I also have some audio from the investigations that they did when they were in the home. And you can hear the things that were being thrown, the knives. There were even, bullets that were thrown to you, and you can hear it all in the background. So I can share that to you guys if you want to hear them. You don't have to hear them now, just because. Well, they're like a few seconds long.
Okay.
Where are you sending
I don't
them
know
at?
if you want to I'm gonna send them through here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's on SoundCloud too.
Our way. Perfect.
And we will add this on the Instagram post.
I was gonna say,
or the website. Both, maybe.
Or the website, or both, yeah.
Yeah, we could do both.
Humpty Doo Audio, 1998.
Humpty Doo Audio. Yeah. Okay.
I'm being
then I can
Australian makes
send.
this so much better.
I'm gonna send a photo of the house
It is a
too,
cool
just so you
audio.
guys can take a look at it.
Yes,
It is a
send the
cool
photo
audio.
too, and then we post them like always.
Yeah, I'm gonna send them to you guys in the group chat after this too. But yeah, it being one of the more media covered paranormal cases in Australian history, unfortunately, it still does not have that much for me to cover. So
Yeah.
that's all I have for today.
Thank you.
But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Do you have any like questions, comments, concerns?
No, I mean, it's a
Good.
fun story. Like, I think the biggest thing is just like, why did that one knife just like stop? Like it hit something.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think
I think
kind of
Humpty
like
Doo. I think Humpty Doo is the good spirit who is there protecting them from an evil spirit
And-
that they didn't know about.
Oh,
Ah.
I think you might be right.
I'm always right.
And I was thinking
Alright.
that it was like I was thinking that it was like a threat. Like I could do this if I wanted to.
Oh. Okay.
Oh,
See, the thing is that they said they described it like it hit something, right?
yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
Like something stopped it from the front rather than like pulling it
Yes.
from behind to stop it. You know?
Oh.
So like that's the
Mhm.
thing. No.
Yeah. That's
Interesting.
what made it. Yeah, they're still like investigating it like 20 years later. Like, I think the last I've ever heard that they went into the home and did a little observation 2018. So fairly recently.
Okay.
One of the websites that I was like one of my sources, there was a little thing that kind of describes it, the house where it's at, and it says Humpty Doo in Australia's Northern Territory. Humpty Doo is an Australian slang term meaning everything topsy-turvy or turned upside down. I was like, what?
Okay. I like how it
Topsy-turvy?
became
makes
its own
sense.
thing.
Themed name. Yeah. No, that's sick.
Yeah. I was just like, topsy-turvy? That's crazy. I've never heard that before.
Now if you can't use topsy-turvy, you can use Humpty Doo.
Topsy-turvy. Humpty Doo. Humpty Doo Poltergeist.
that.
Thank you. I really just like the name. It really drew me
yeah.
in, and I was like, I love it.
You said
I
Humpty
feel like we've
Doo,
been
and
doing
I'm
a lot
like,
of Humpty.
what's gonna happen?
What are we? Anyways, thank you for listening
Thank you.
to the Humpty Doo Poltergeist. Spooky scary. Now, Jay, take it away.
I will take it away. And before I do, well, as I do, I have a question for
Yeah.
y'all. So
What's
I
your
have an acronym for y'all, and I want you to just give me your best guess as what this acronym is for.
Okay.
I got
So-
you.
Geo.
Huh?
Huh?
Oh, I wasn't sure what you said.
I said HOTTOGO.
What is that?
Any Chapel Roan fans out there? If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Ah.
It's a song.
Okay, so the acronym is GGLF.
Oh.
Get giggly like Friday.
Get good little word I can't say.
I'm like, wait, what?
I don't know.
At least
I don't
came
know.
up with something.
I don't know. What is
No,
it?
that's
You do improv, bruh. Improv.
That's great. He did. And you did too. This
I did,
conversation is
wait.
all improv.
We yes anded it.
Yeah, wait away.
Okay, so
GGLF.
GGLF.
Goo goo gaga.
You know, it has the first G, and that's about it.
Goo goo gaga.
No, the two G's. Goo goo.
Oh,
Goo
goo
goo.
goo.
Goo loser fuck. I don't know.
Dude, that's what it stands
What does
for.
it mean?
That's what it
Okay.
stands for.
Does it?
Yeah.
Not for this story. Okay.
Oh, my fault. Different one.
So I'm gonna give you a hint.
Please.
Well, it's related to the story. The year is 1998. In Brie, France.
Oh my god.
And I did not search for a case in France in particular. This is just where this happened to be.
Okay.
I support it.
Yeah, in Brie, France, an act described as a mass suicide occurred.
Oh. Whoa. That's
Yeah.
you.
Go ahead.
No. I was just like looking at my screen. You said that, and like my eyes widened. I literally stopped. Like it felt like I like short circuited for a sec. So
Yeah.
that whoa was like what the biggest turn.
Yeah.
Like not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, here it goes. I'm
Oh my
sorry,
goodness, this is
and
our-
I am not sorry.
Oh god.
Okay.
This is
So
our
early
first,
one
like-
morning. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say this is our first like I don't know bonus story. I don't know what to expect.
So hold that thought, and then
Yes.
Yeah.
So early one morning, residents in Brie, France woke up to find 11 victims hanging from a bridge.
Fuck.
Oh, I knew.
Go ahead.
Continue. Oh my god. Continue.
These victims measured between 9 inches and 24 inches in height.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to say that these victims were gnomes.
Yeah. Garden gnome. Something. LF. I don't know.
Okay, Alexis?
I'm right here.
Oh, do you, this is your hint of,
Huh?
well,
Yeah.
I can make your hint a little longer to make it helpful.
No, I know.
So, okay, a note was left
I
on the
need it.
scene that's read. When you read this few words, we will no longer be part of your selfish world, where we serve merely as pretty decorations, end quote. And this shocking event was a stark protest against the use of gnomes as mere garden ornaments. The letter was left behind by the GGLF.
Garden Gnome Liberation Front.
Yes, it is!
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
You're supposed to let the moment come, brother.
I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah!
All right, continue.
Good job.
Take
I am
back the
impressed.
spotlight.
Yeah, so this is the story of the Garden Gnome Liberation Front.
That's so
Yeah.
sick. Oh man,
So-
the emotions on this one already. I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, what do I-
funny, and then you were like mass suicide, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh,
And now it's just
yeah.
Garden protests, and I'm like, huh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
No people. Yeah. So there were gnomes. So I titled this as The Great Gnome Escape because that's the name that was given to the case. And then I quickly realized that it goes deeper than I thought.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the GGLF was born in Alençon, France in 1996. And the French name is Front de Libération de Nantes Jardin, which the
Oh my God.
acronym would be FLNJ. But I'm going to keep it in English because that's how I found it.
Got it.
So this group's
Yeah,
mission
wait.
was to rescue garden gnomes from their lives as decorative prisoners and release them into the wild.
For real.
Yeah.
Read gnomes.
So in 1977 was kind of the first notable event involving the Garden Gnome Liberation Front. And this was in Chaville, France on September 1997.
Okay.
So the Garden Gnome Liberation Front liberated over 150 garden gnomes from various gardens in town.
Oh my
Oh my
goodness
God.
gracious.
So valiant.
I
So
want
brave.
that many garden gnomes.
So these gnomes were taken from private gardens, and it was mostly in the dead of the night when they would go missing. Only for the gnomes to later be discovered again, arranged in a forest clearing stage as they were embarking on an escapade or returning to nature.
That is so sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Garden Gnome Liberation Front left a message at the scene. And in the letters, the local newspapers, the Garden Gnome Liberation Front claimed responsibility of the act. And they were stating their mission to free the garden gnomes from their enslavement as mere decorations.
Yes.
And of course, 150 gnomes go missing, and then you find them all looking like they're gonna go off into like the wilderness,
Yeah.
or coming back from the wilderness, and they gain a lot of attention. They gain significant media attention, both locally and internationally. And they kind of just highlighted the quirky and like whimsical nature of the protest. Now you can imagine there's lots of different people. So the reactions varied. Some people were amused, seeing them as like harmless pranks. Other people were more upset at the loss of their garden ornaments.
Yeah.
Eventually, the leader of the Garden Gnome Liberation Front was given a suspended sentence, and he was fined for his role of the theft over the 150 gnomes. This sentence, however, did little to dampen the group's activities.
Okay, yeah, valid.
Yeah. So there's a lot, and I wasn't sure where to go or how to organize this, but their actions were intended to like be a protest of the commercialization of ornamental garden gnomes,
That's
just
so
advocating for like their freedom and like return them to the wild. Of course, this would start in France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the group sought to raise awareness about what they saw as the plight of the garden gnomes, just drawing attention to the often overlooked issues and using like these figures just for decoration. And they continued to be active for several years, with similar incidents occurring in other parts of France and other countries.
Dude, that is so sick, actually. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious, but
So this was in 1996. The 1998 was when they
That's
all like committed the
crazy.
mass suicide. But
Yeah.
we're gonna like fast forward to like April of the year 2000,
Mhm.
because this was when the Garden Gnome Liberation Front struck again.
Dude, could you imagine like just coming across that? You're just strolling.
And you just see a bunch of gnomes, 150.
No, literally. No, literally.
So this was when they targeted France's first garden gnome exhibition in Bagatelle Park in Paris. So just like before, it was a nighttime raid, and they quote unquote liberated 20 gnomes and left a warning. So the warning said, more action will follow unless garden gnomes are no longer ridiculed and released into their natural habitat.
Where do we?
End quote. Yeah.
what
Respect
is a
on their
garden gnome's
name.
natural habitat? I would like
Where
to
do
know.
we?
I would
the
like
garden?
to know as well.
No,
No,
they're being liberated
them
from the gardens.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of garden, brother.
The one in the
Oh,
nature?
It's the gnome garden.
It's weed. It's where they grow a bunch of weed.
Yeah, where do we?
yeah. Look at the gnomes. They definitely do.
Stoner gnomes.
So once again, they didn't actually take it very serious. And And then in
Yeah.
2003, another bizarre incident occurred in Saint Dia de Vosges. I think that's how it's said. This is in
Okay.
Eastern France. So
I
this is
trust
all
you.
happening in France right now.
Mm-hmm.
French police were trying to find a home for over 80 gnomes that had been kidnapped earlier that year from the Garden Gnome Liberation Front.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's so many.
Yeah. So the difference was that these gnomes were actually discovered lined up on the steps to the local church on Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to go to church that Sunday, 80
Nope.
gnomes were on the stairs.
Gnomes. Yep.
Could you imagine getting arrested and then somebody asks you what you're in for and being like, I stole a
Liberated
bunch of
gnomes?
garden gnomes.
No. You liberated them.
I liberated them.
Yeah. You have to say I'm part of the resistance.
Yeah, literally.
So, of course,
Have some
despite the
respect.
police efforts, strangely enough, the gnome owners, were strangely reluctant to come forward and claim their stolen property, which unfortunately just left the gnomes homeless and stored in a police station.
Bro.
Yeah, so of course this
Those
was
poor
not
gnomes.
last of the Garden Gnome Liberation, because pretty soon in Germany, Spain, Switzerland, Italy, the US, and Canada, groups decided to start liberating gnomes.
Hell yeah.
So this
I
became
support
This is the freedom that they wish for in America.
yeah,
Free
this
gnomes.
became a worldwide thing. So one notable example is that in Europe, there's the Gnome Sanctuary in Barga, Italy. And
There's a gnome
Wait.
sanctuary in Italy?
there is a
Yeah, I was
Gnome
gonna say.
Sanctuary in Italy, and it was established in 1999. Now, I will be
Damn.
sharing with you their manifesto because they have a website.
Yeah, so
Oh,
far.
dope. I need to see
And
it.
it's just great. It says, remember our ancestors, the proud bulls that guarded the gates of the Persian kings, the lions that kept watch over the palaces of the Chinese emperors, and the most famous of all, the mighty Sphinx, enigmatic, imperturbable, who shall return to the king emperor of the oldest race of all to lead his gnomic hordes to our final victory. It just goes on and on. It's quite long. Feel free to
Yeah,
take
I
a look
opened
at
it
it.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is long.
I'll probably link this on the website so the listeners can just check it out.
Arise,
These people,
gnomes. Rise
literally,
up and reclaim our glory.
the energy I'm getting is just flat earther. These people are literally the flat earthers. Like, it's the same energy, the same people who want to liberate gnomes are 100% flat earthers.
I support it.
Okay, I see that now. I did see
Free
that
gnomes,
energy.
bruh. Put some respect on their name.
Now, this gnome sanctuary in Italy just provided a safe haven for the liberate gnomes. They offer them a chance to live freely in a green wooden valley. In addition to that, there is in 1996 there's also a gnome village. Once again, this one's also in Italy.
Yeah.
Their website looks a little more legit. It has tickets you can buy, events. It shows you the map of their location, their phone number, their email.
What are the prices?
They're open every day from 10:30 to 18 o'clock, Alexis.
We gotta go.
Uh-huh. Okay,
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Well, it's already closed.
See, you still translate it to 6 o'clock. So why do you use military time? Anyway, this is a
Your
discussion for later.
mom. Your mom.
No, that's great. And today it was
Thank you,
closed.
Jane.
Tuesday, 23rd of July, village closed for maintenance. So they were closed today either way. But yeah,
Where does it say the...
they just started popping up all over the world. People would liberate gnomes, and in 2008, another significant arrest took place in Brittany, France, because a man was caught, where the numbers are getting bigger, with 170 stolen gnomes.
Bruh.
For April Fools next year, we should put a bunch of gnomes in the gardens at work.
That would be great.
Yes. Oh my god, yes.
I would be so down.
We get so in trouble.
Yeah. No, they'd write us up.
Yeah, no, but yeah, this man was caught with 170 gnomes. And once again, it just continued the legacy of like the Garden Gnome Liberation Front.
Oh, he's my hero.
Now, I'm going to give you the definition of gnoming. Because
gnoming?
Oh.
Gnoming, yes.
Okay.
Gnoming. Gnoming.
Yeah.
So, gnoming is defined as the act of taking garden gnomes from someone's property and placing them in a different location, often as a prank. This is a playful, typically harmless activity that is intended to surprise and amuse the original owner and those who discover the relocated gnomes. Now, gnoming can involve relocating gnomes, moving a gnome from different yard, public place, or even creating a gnome village in a new location. It also includes staging scenarios, arranging gnomes in a humorous or elaborate setup to entertain those who find them, and leaving notes. Sometimes pranksters leave notes explaining that gnomes have been liberated or are in an adventure.
Sick. I want to go around and gnome. I want to go gnome.
Yeah.
You've been gnome. You've been liberated. Yeah, so if you own a garden gnome, you better keep a close eye on it, you know.
Better watch
in
out.
recent years, garden
Better not
dwellers
cry.
have developed a reputation for going AWOL.
GGLF.
Yeah. So the practice of gnoming just involves borrowing a garden gnome from a nearby resident, taking it on vacation, sending a photo to the owner, in exotic like locations. And eventually the gnome is always reunited with its owner after its adventure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the first recorded incident of gnoming was in 1986. So this was before the Garden Gnome Liberation Front. But in 1986, a garden gnome in Sydney, Australia, was stolen. The crime was reported, and the gnome was. They named the gnome Bilbo.
Aw, cute.
Yeah. And he left a note behind that said, "Dear Mum, couldn't stand the solitude any longer. Gone off to see the world. Don't be worried. I'll be back soon. Love, Bilbo."
That is so cute.
Yeah. So in 2007, in the UK, a gnome named Murphy ended up traveling to 12 different countries.
Damn.
Yeah. So
Bro, Murphy gets around more than I do.
That's what I was going to say too.
Crazy.
So Murphy's owner, Eve, was also stunned because he received pictures of Murphy swimming, riding motorcycles. It was like the high profile traveling gnome case. So there was another one taken from Washington that was given a free trip to California and Las Vegas. And on this travel, this gnome was named Severson. I have the link here. No, I don't. But if you look it up, this gnome actually ended in People's Magazine with Paris Hilton.
Damn.
So Paris Hilton was holding her chihuahua in one hand and this gnome on the other.
That's so funny.
Oh,
man.
to be a garden gnome.
Yeah. So eventually, you know, he was returned to his owner. And of course, they made national news. There was an interview in Good Morning America. The person that took Murphy, the gnome, was Connor. And he admitted to taking the gnome on spring break with a group of buddies. And he explained that they ran into Paris Hilton at a gas station, trailed by paparazzi. So I think that's kind of where like they talked a little. She took the gnome for like a while, and somehow she got it back to them.
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the evolution of gnoming, of like liberating
yeah.
them. It went from them literally like being so done with their lives that they committed mass suicide to being stolen away forever and used for like political displays to now it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna take your little gnome on a ride and then we'll bring him back to you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Like he just wants to see the world.
I also have a little heartwarming story for a gnome that made also headlines. So Bev York from Victoria, British Columbia, as you can see, we're going all over the world.
yes.
Noticed that her garden gnome went missing one day. But little did she know that her gnome would be named by the kidnappers or the liberators Leopold, the traveling gnome. And
yeah.
And he had embarked in an epic 8-month road trip.
Damn.
Dude.
Yeah. Leopold's
I
adventure
love
took him
that.
from Vancouver Island to Mexico's Baja Peninsula. And when he was finally reunited with his owner, something came back with Leopold. Any guesses?
No.
So what ended up coming back with Leopold was pretty much an album with pictures from his trip.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
So I'm sending the link right now. You can see him chilling in the sand. You can also see the owner. Like if you go down, like he got like buried in the sand. I think he went to like the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon.
That is so funny.
Drinking like a margarita. So that's Leopold.
Whatever.
So, the owner, Miss York, far from being offended, she was delighted by her garden gnome's adventure. And yeah, she loved it. And there's a little cute, funny note at the end that says, remember, adventure before dementia.
I guess it's something to live by.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the Garden Gnome Liberation Front, the Great Gnome Escape, gnoming. So, yeah, listeners, Kai, Alexis, let's hear from you. I don't know, have you ever encountered like a liberated gnome? Have you been part of a gnome heist?
I would love to be.
Yeah, so just go ahead and listeners, share them with us if you do. Otherwise, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling. That was fun.
Sorry that I led to thinking it was a dark story.
You're fine.
That was crazy. Like if my jaw could have dropped more, it would have. But you saved it.
Starting with 11, a mass suicide with 11 bodies.
Yeah, and then you were like 9 to 12 inches or whatever, like 6 to 9 inches, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I wasn't sure where to start it. I was like, do I like start with just the gnomes and the acronym, or like, do I like start with like the quote unquote mass suicide?
I think the suicide was a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good attention grabber.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it for my story. Hope you enjoyed it.
Cool.
I was just going to cover that, what did I call it? The Great Gnome Escape, which is what ended up happening in France. And then I started researching like the Gnome Liberation Front, and I'm like, wait, I was like, this is a rabbit hole that I don't know if I want to go down.
Mm-hmm.
And I did.
Good job. I'm so glad you did. The photos with like
the gnome.
It kind of reminded me. Yeah, it kind of reminded me. One of my guests on my tour. it was a mom and a daughter. I didn't realize until we went into Gable that the daughter had a backpack, but the backpack wasn't actually a backpack. It was straps like attached to a cheese ball jar.
What?
Yeah.
I think I had a stroke. Can you say that again?
It was like backpack straps attached to a cheese ball jar.
Oh, like one of those big jars?
Yeah.
The big bottle,
Yeah.
like the plastic
Cheese?
jars?
With
Like
cheese
cheese
balls
balls.
in it.
You know, the crunchy cheese
Yeah.
balls, like cheese puffs?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
big tub
Like
just like
that.
I'm just. This girl gotta
And she
have her
said she takes it
cheese puffs.
everywhere, like every trip she goes to. It's like a tradition. So I was like, oh, it's kind of cute.
Okay, the more you know.
Yeah, I was like, well, cheese balls.
I mean, it's definitely unique.
Cheese balls.
Cheese balls.
Cheese balls.
Oh. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Come back
Thank
in next week.
you.
Not next. Well,
Y'all
next week we
come
have
back
old news
and-
nonsense.
Y'all come back
In
now, you
episode
hear?
15, we're having a special guest. So
Ooh,
tune back
very
in for
true. He very special.
that.
It's going to
Alrighty.
be a fun one, so.
Yeah.
Tis gonna be fun. What were
Here
you
to
gonna
sign
say?
us off, Alexis.
Oh, I am? Okay.
I'm just asking.
chambersoftheoccult.com. Go on it now and look at our stuff. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Chambers of the Occult, yada yada. Social media, follow us now.
MySpace, Wattpad,
AOL,
mhm.
Plenty of Fish.
Oh, Tinder?
Yeah, we got a POF file.
Hinge,
Pinterest.
Yeah.
Pinterest, what else is there?
Threads.
Kick?
We have a twit.
Did you say tick or
It's
kick?
Kick. K-I-K,
Okay.
Kick.
KIK. That's crazy.
Yeah, find
I
us
thought about kicking
anywhere
forever.
you'd like. Check our bio. Check our Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
The
then
link's there.
we'll post the audios of the ghosty boy and stuff, and you'll see the post on
Yeah.
Instagram. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oogie. Yeah.
thanks for being here.
Have a
Thanks.
good day.
Remember to sit up. That
Yeah,
was a
drink
reminder
water.
myself. Honestly, I was like
Stretch.
slouching like crazy.
Stand up for 10 minutes every hour of every day.
Yeah. Calculate your
Hydrate.
calculate your daily calorie
Calories.
budget so that you can properly nourish yourself. And go on hikes, but maybe not in Shenandoah National Park. So
Yeah, wait away.
or go, but like be very careful. It's a lot safer
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.